Hey everybody, welcome back to Midwest Marksman. Now, a while ago I had been watching some content from Pat McNamara, I think is how you pronounce it, and I saw that he was doing carbine training with airsoft guns, and I was like, well, I'm not really into the airsoft thing, but maybe that has some value, so I ended up getting a bolt action some time ago, and you know what? The dang things are useful. I have to admit, there are days where I just don't want to spend the match ammo shooting at distance, or it's very, very windy, or like today, my range is actually kind of closed down for maintenance. And so I will take out my airsoft rifle and I'll train at 25 and 50 yards. And yeah, it's kind of different ballistically. It's not the same exactly, but one thing it does allow me to train on is trigger pull, position, steadiness. This actually has some decent weight, tripod shooting, a little bit of my form, and the actual follow-up running the bolt. Positional stages, especially with something set up like this, work well. And lastly, glass, working on reticles, training my eye towards reticles, dialing information, thinking about order and process. And so people who are really good PRS shooters tend to be process people. And the really good NRL hunter shooters that I'm watching right now, like my friend Aaron, sometimes he watches my channel. My friend Aaron is a great process shooter of like stage to stage or step to step to step, and just developing a process to shoot better. Well, in order to do that, you don't always have to be shooting live fire. You can do dry fire, and you can also do something like this. So if you just have to see a projectile fly, which I'm kind of in the camp where dry fire, it's hard for me. I'll do it, but it's hard for me. I got to see a projectile fly. This setup is dedicated towards that. And on top, I have the DiscoveryOpt ED LHT. This is their Gen 2. They did have a Gen 1 of this. They improved it. I like to use the Gen 2 on this system because I never need high magnification, but it has enough light collection. I use the Discovery ring so I can get it up to sit nicely on this particular flat top here. And then on top of that, I can still run through enough magnification and field of view opportunities at different distances to simulate something kind of like a PRS match. So it's a long-winded way of saying YouTube tends to come after me if I pull the trigger right away in the first 2 minutes. And now I'm past the first 2 minutes, so I can start pulling the trigger. Here we go. I've got targets set up at 25 and 50, and let's run the bolt, see where we're at. How about turn the safety off? On steel, it's about 15-mile-an-hour winds, but I'm slightly protected. All hits so far. The nice thing about running on an airsoft is, yes, there's no recoil, but you still have heavy milliradian holds for wind. Like that one right there was like 4 mils off. You really have to read the wind. And if you run consistent BBs, which I'm running like really heavyweight consistent BBs, they tend to fall in the same place at 25 and 50. Beyond that is anybody's guess, really. But the thing that I like about doing this again is practicing all the form and function, but I get to look through that glass and that reticle. This has a parallax that goes down really quite close. You can go all the way down to 15-ish yards or meters with the parallax. I'm gonna say it's probably more like yards. You can go down to 15 yards with the parallax, which is really cool. When I put this on like 22s, which you've seen on my channel many, many times on rimfire, then it's great for hunting, and I can do a little competition, and I can shoot extended distances because these optics have quite a bit of internal elevation. As far as a usable image goes, in my experience, it's been right around that 28 mils for a pretty decent image. It's gonna start to look a little milky beyond that, and you might be risking some spring tension there. But I like being able to use my reticle in about the same magnification range that I would at a match, which is gonna be around 12 or 13. Same tripod, surprisingly similar trigger pull to my center fire, and get these hits. Now I'm shooting 1/3 size target, but I've got really small targets at 50, that when it's not windy, I like to train on those ones. And that's where I need to start holding or dialing. There you go. That was the first round impact. That was pretty good on a 4-inch target. So what I find is there's a little bit more shallow depth of field, but a little bit better eye box on this one compared to some of the other models. It's not a deal breaker for me. I look at this as a hunting optic primarily, but a hunting optic that can fit a lot of other areas of use. Like I said, I've used it for some light match work, like non-sanctioned matches. I've put it on 22. I maybe would put it on a center fire for a match, but more than likely when it comes to center fire, it's gonna move over to a hunting dedicated purpose, which is what I originally reviewed the optic with. The tube size allows for lots of internal elevation, but having a slightly larger, that's pretty good. Having a slightly larger objective bell does make this a little superior. If this same optic configuration didn't have the larger objective, I think this would limit it for even that hunting size. If they went down to, you know, it's a 50, if they went down to a 40 with this, I don't think I'd be as pleased with it. At a 50, I do seem to get enough light collection with the optic to be happy with it. I end up shooting lower light with this one quite a bit, whether it's on rimfire or training, something kind of like what I'm doing right now. That is not bad. At 50 yards, seeing that kind of consistency it is surprising. People are probably gonna ask me what this is, and I don't rightly know exactly what the brand is or anything, but it's supposed to be like a Remington 700 footprint, something similar to that. I think you get like 25 or 50 BBs at the max inside this magazine, and then it's just a big spring that launches them out there. And over time, it's held up pretty well. The only issue I ever have is really long length of pull. Thankfully, with these Discovery optics and these rings, it works. I can run it back here, but you can even extend this longer. I'm 6'5". I don't know what person would ever need to extend this longer. And then of course it's folding. So kind of an interesting little trainer. If you are on a budget and you're trying to find long-term ways to practice, I suppose this might be interesting to you. Especially if you're like me and you just really feel the need to see a projectile fly. You need to actually interact with something in the air or hit a target down there so you can use your reticle, because so much of the game, so much of hunting, so much of PRS or NRL is what you do with the optic, how you understand your optic and how good you are at using your optic to give you advantage downrange. I realize some of you maybe have not seen the Discovery Optics rings. They have various kinds of rings. This happens to be a pair that are adjustable. So in here, if I turn it just a little bit, maybe you can see better inside. You can see that there's actually some teeth on both sides that are going to interact with each other. And then you have these extra bolts. You might wonder about those. Those are to lock down the height adjustment. This is not adjustable for tilt or like increasing elevation. It is adjustable for height though, and it engages through some teeth. So I find it to be very, very reliable. These screws have not backed out on me at all on any platform, including spring piston air guns, 300 PRC, snappy guns. These have not backed out or loosened up on me, nor have these. So I'm really happy to see that they stay locked down. I think it's trustworthy. They're really robust. In fact, I think I did a drop test years ago with rings like this on a big heavy 308 just to see what happened to the optic and the rings. No issues with that at all. So I'm happy with these rings. They're very useful. And you can tell if I was to run with a 56 millimeter or maybe even just a different setup altogether, I would want a little bit more barrel clearance on a real rifle where there's going to be barrel mirage transferred to the optic. And rings like these actually allow you to increase the height and get it just a touch higher. If I wasn't comfortable on the rear of the rifle, I'll just move this down a little bit. If I wasn't comfortable on the rear of the rifle and I needed to lift my cheek piece and get this just up a little higher, then it would be very easy for me to increase this to match whatever I'm doing back here, as well as drop it down to a fairly low practical place. So if you haven't checked out the Discovery rings or the ED LHT Gen 2 3 to 15 by 50, I suggest it. I think it's a good optic for those in the budget community, especially if you want to do the kind of things that I'm doing right now, which is like a little bit of training, maybe some rim fire practice, and then center fire hunting. This will not break your bank and it'll get the job done. The reticle's a little bit lightly shaded. It's not a perfect optic. It's a pretty good optic. And when we're considering the price point, I don't have a lot of competition that I would put in front of this one. All right, I hope this video inspired you just to think about training a little different, maybe being a little more creative, trying out some different things, maybe even considering some of the Discovery optics. You could check out the comment section because I have some awesome discounts there. And when you use that of course, it supports the channel and the brands that I've partnered with in the past. I think this is an example of an optic and a pair of rings that almost everybody would find value in, especially if you do a little bit of those things like light hunting, maybe some NRL 22 plinking, some long range shooting, and you just don't want to break the bank. I think most people get something out of this, and the quality is there, the design is there for the price point that they're asking. And it just seems like nowadays there's not very much that you can buy or get that doesn't feel like price gouging. And in my opinion, Discovery has really never felt like price gouging. It feels like one of the only good deals left on the market. So check them out and tell me what you think. Comment that down below. I really appreciate it. Or watch one of these videos handpicked for you.